I'm Tyler Gobble, as some of you know. Apparently I'm your MC tonight. Which I didn't know. But I'm also reading, so I'm sorry for that. That's weird.
I'll introduce you.
You don't have to. I'll introduce myself. I got it planned out. I've been waiting for this day. So let's get started. So we're here tonight to celebrate Lauren Becker's new book, which is called "If I Would Leave Myself Behind." So I don't want to fuck it up. And which is available back there. You should buy it. It's wonderful. Let's see. So, but she's not reading first. Or she can read first. She can read first and last, but she's not going to. So our first reader is Josh Denslow. His favorite poet is Tyler Gobble.
Hell yeah.
And that wasn't on here. Let's see. He has stories in Third Coast. I want to skip the Wigleaf. He's also a staff editor at Smoke On Quarterly and an editor at Unstuck. He plays in a band and does a lot. And he has a kid. He makes films. This is incredible. How's he in here right now? Right? So another really cool thing. We met each other when we were both contestants on the 3rd season of Survivor, which he won. I was the first one out. He was the last one out. I just had to have my Torchy's tacos. So anyways, Josh Denslow. That's the worst thing to do.
Yeah!
My mouth's already in. You can get a $2.15 bottle of water at Torchy's Tacos. All right, so I had no idea what to read. I haven't written a lot of short stuff in a while, so what I decided to do was just break apart this story. Louder? How's that? How's that for loudness? It's going to get quieter as I go. So I'll just start. So this story is called Mousetrap. I want to find a not scary way to tell my sister that I'm contemplating killing myself. But I don't want her to think that it has to do with the fact that she asked me to start paying rent. I've been staying in my sister's basement with her ex-husband's pool table for a year now. Carl texts me once a month to ask when's a good time to retrieve the table, preferably a time when my sister isn't there, but he never shows. I always thought he was cool, and I was bummed when my sister announced they were getting divorced. Turns out my sister blew one of his friends in the bathroom with Dave & Buster's during Carl's 40th birthday party. I was there, I didn't notice anything. In fact, I got my highest score ever in that zombie killing game, and Carl confided in me that he and my sister were trying to have a child. It was a fun party. Some nights when I'm on call from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m., I think of ways that I could die while pacing around the basement waiting for a job to come through. Maybe the ice maker leaks onto the floor, and I slip as I'm grabbing my 4th Pop-Tart and hit my temple on the counter in the kitchen that Carl never finished. Or I drop the TV remote under the pool table, and when I reach for it, one of the legs gives out and the table crushes my head, killing me instantly. Or, best option, I have some undiagnosed heart thing that is aggravated by climbing up and down the basement stairs in a half-hearted attempt at exercise, and my sister finds me sprawled across the beige carpet. That way there's no mess. And provided my sister finds me in a timely manner, I won't decompose much. The worst is coming across some guy who lived alone and died in the bathtub or at his desk or in the couch, and nobody finds him for weeks. And at that point, they don't look human anymore, just green and gooey like a compost heap. I always pray those turn up on Jason's shift. The front door opens upstairs and I hear my sister type in the code to the alarm. She had it installed after the divorce because she was convinced Carl was going to come into the house and break shit, or take shit, or take a shit. I don't know. I never understood why she was mad at him. It wasn't like he did anything. But I tried to say that to her once, and she threw an entire drying rack of glasses and bowls and plates at me, and they shattered across the floor like confetti. I take the first wooden step upstairs, but then I hear another voice, a low voice. Not one of her hot friends who think I'm creepy and who are probably the ones telling her that I should start paying rent. Tonight is apparently not the right night to bring up my problems. Instead, I stretch across the futon and place my phone on my chest. Then I put on my headphones and turn Radiohead up on my iPod. I don't think I can stand to listen to my sister hysterically fuck some random dude again. So anyway, we'll jump ahead here. So what you find out is that his job is picking up dead bodies and bringing them to the funeral home. So he gets a call that night, and this is when he gets to the house. When I pull up in front of a small ranch house near my old high school, the door opens and a woman emerges. She's so perfectly backlit that I can't make out any of her features. She looks like the shadow puppet of a giant lamp. I get out and approach her. I always check in with anyone alive before I yank the stretcher from the back of the van. It seems rude to start working without introducing myself and offering my condolences. I'm happy to keep someone steady on his or her feet, or offer my shoulder for crying purposes. I'm Mark, I say, from the funeral home. I'm Lorraine, from the house next door. I wait for more information, a sign if she's going to cry. Now that I can see her, I'm guessing she's late 40s, early 50s. One of those haircuts that looks like a wig. I don't really know Jim, she waves into the house. We've been neighbors for 10 years, but other than a stiff hello or a wave, we never spoke. I guess I can get the stretcher now. I opened the back of the van and unfolded, the wheels hissing on the driveway. It can be shocking to stumble across someone who has moved on. How are you feeling? I ask her. In traumatic moments, it's good to engage them with questions. She chuckles. 2 people in this house and one of them is dead. And you're asking me how I'm doing? A wheel snags in the grass as I maneuver along the walkway to the front door. I wake up every night around 2 a.m. and get a glass of water. A lot of times I stare out my kitchen window, watch raccoons climb into Jim's trash. She indicates the narrow space between Jim's house and what can only be her house. Noticed last night that Jim's kitchen light was on. Stayed on all day, too. When tonight it was still on, I figured that was it. How'd you get into the house? Back door was open. I told the cops the same thing, but they're sure he died naturally. Well, you're welcome to head home and get back to sleep. I can take it from here. I lift the front wheels of the stretcher through the doorway, and she follows me as if I never said a thing. First thing I notice is that the house does not reek of death, which means Jim hasn't been dead long. That's a relief. I'll spare you the mystery, she says. Jim's on the kitchen floor. I closed his robe so you didn't have to see his pecker. Thanks, I say. How'd you get a job like this anyway? Craigslist. So while he's at the house, he starts going through this dude's stuff, and he finds a gun, and he steals it and takes it. And so it's kind of like all he can think about. So this is a little bit later. He's talking to one of his coworkers, and it kind of picks up mid-conversation. You know how people always say they'd rather kill themselves? Yeah. You know, instead of watching some movie or listening to some band. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Jason says. Do you think they actually picture killing themselves? You know, like going through with it? Jason stares at me without blinking, which must be hard because he looks exhausted. People say that a lot is all I say. I don't want to tell Jason that I've been picturing killing myself with an alarming frequency, or imagining what others will say when I'm gone. I'm settled on what I think Jason will say when he finds out. Fucking idiot. He'll probably be the one to pick me up and take me to the home. Kind of rude to do to a friend, but there's no getting around it. But what I really want to ask him is if it's normal. I would feel much better if I discovered that burly, soft-spoken Jason imagined ending his life upwards of 50 times a day. It's a figure of speech, he says. No one would actually kill themselves to get out of watching a movie or listening to a song. 3 high school girls plunge into the coffee shop like jumping in a pool, screaming laughter and waving limbs. When I look back at Jason across the table, his eyes are closed and his chin is tucked into his neck. I take a sip of my coffee and imagine the tallest of the 3 girls removing a gun from her purse and pointing it at the barista. When he tells her there's no soy milk, she splatters his brains across the menu board propped behind him. Jason doesn't wake in all the commotion, but I realize that I have the last of the soy milk in my latte. The 3 girls turn to me, and the smallest one inexplicably pulls out a machete. Before I can explain myself, she hacks into my neck, and I feel relief. Relief that I didn't have to do it myself. So this is the last section here. This is a little bit later, and he finally sits down with his sister, and she's ordered a pizza as kind of an apology for the whole rent thing. It's the first time they've talked. My sister has the pizza box open on the kitchen table, and a paper plate in the place I always sit. It's funny how quickly we fall into routines. It's not like she and I had a meeting where we picked our seat at the table, or which end of the couch we preferred, or if the toilet paper would unroll from the bottom or the top. But once decided, these seemingly arbitrary decisions become gospel. If I were to park on my sister's side of the driveway, she'd be pissed. Not because she'd have to walk any further, but because she didn't get to do it the exact way she'd done it the day before. That's what we truly crave, to have every day be a replica of the day that preceded it. The scary part is how much of our routines are automated now. I can set the AC and the heater to the desired temperature depending on the time of the day. A DVR will search the schedule and record my favorite television programs whenever they air. I don't ever need to look at a map or memorize a phone number again. Birthdays pop up on my phone automatically, saving me the grueling task of recalling them. With all of this automation, you're left with more time to ponder while you were granted conscious thought. Everyone wants his or her life to be simpler, while I'm convinced that simplicity is going to kill me. I'm on my second piece of pizza before either of us has said a word. You know, I agree that I should pay rent, right? Like it's a reasonable request that was met by no anger on my part. I know it's reasonable, but I still feel bad. My sister has barely touched her pizza, and the grease on her plate is in the shape of a kangaroo. I absolve you, I say. Remember that game we used to play with Dad, Mousetrap? Our dad loved to build things, our dressers, our bookshelves, our beds, and the games we played involved building. In Mousetrap, you set a series of pulleys and levers, and if you had everything just right, the resulting chain of events would snap the trap shut, catching the cartoon mouse. All you had to do was push a marble to get it started. I'm scared every decision I make is going to set off a chain reaction like that. I take a second to really look at my sister, her brown hair hanging limply around her face, her pale skin, her downturned lips. Loneliness pours out of her like twisting a washcloth that is soaking wet. Perhaps she thought we would have a real connection when I moved in, a partner to guide her through the hard times. It will destroy her if I say that I want to take my own life. She'll feel she has to save me. I don't think someone can be saved by someone else. They have to save themselves. And if they can't, they steal a gun. This will be a good chain reaction, I say. I'll be more responsible and you'll have some extra cash. I thought divorcing Carl was a good decision, but now I'm stuck with this house payment. I'm drinking way more, but I remind myself that I can only be followed to work 100 times before it's apparent that trust has eroded. He was absolutely sure that I was going to cheat on him, and it became true to him. It strikes me that through her entire divorce, and until this very moment, I have never once considered that maybe it wasn't her fault. I put my pizza down and watched the grease pool into the shape of a bump. Thanks. Tyler's up next. I can't.